going to call to order the Okeechobee Utility Authority regular meeting for October 9th, 2018. Can I get everybody to please rise and join me in the pledge to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Yeah, I'll be there. Determination of voting members. Ms. Anderson?
Present.
Mr. Clay? Here. Mr. Priestman's here. Mr. Fradley?
Not a voter, yes.
Mr. Moldenhauer? Here. Mr. Myers? Have we heard anything from Mr. Myers, Mr. Okay. Mr. Nelson? Here. Mr. Tremaine? Okay. So, voting, we will have Mr. Clay, Mr. Nelson, myself, and Ms. Anderson, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, the meeting minutes from September 11th, 2018. Any errors or omissions?
I didn't see anything, so I make a motion that we accept as written.
Motion, Mr. Clay.
Second.
Second, Mr. Nelson. Discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Fun part. Yeah, you want to come on up?
I don't think I've ever seen old Vince without his hat on.
Very seldom if I can shake a hand with a man that's been here 30 years. Congratulations, Vince. It says, presented to Roy B. Pageant in recognition for 30 years of service as an employee of the Okeechobee Utility Authority. Presented the 9th day of October, 2018. On behalf of myself and the board, congratulations.
That's awesome.
Another 30 years.
Thank you very much.
Is that a haircut style y'all have at OUA?
Hasn't been here 30 years.
That's it. Is he headed back to work? Model employee. All right, agenda item number 4, consent agenda. Consent agenda this month consists of the financial report and invoice from Eckler Engineering for the water treatment plant improvements, invoice from Infrastructure Solutions Services with Whispering Pines improvements, invoice from PRP Construction for Whispering Pines improvements, an invoice from Vocal and Berg Land Trust Services. It's okay, 46. And invoice from McNabb Hydrology Consultants. It's the pleasure of the board.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda from items 5 through 10.
Motion, Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Second, Mr. Clay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Just one thing.
Sir?
Just on a comment on something. Good to see the trend on the finance side. You know, we're coming in, we're budgeted for 316 and we're at 305, and it's a good trend, and we've been seeing that quite a bit. So, thank y'all.
Agenda item number 11, the FDEP Grant LP 47021. Mr. Hayford?
Chairman, board members, this is a repeat of what you've seen in the past, so I'll be kind of brief about it, but the OUA did receive an appropriation amount of $523,867 that was earmarked for Treasure Island Septic and Sewer Project. It was the board's position at an earlier meeting to adopt a new ranking project with the southwest section concerning the number 1 project. So OUA staff and our federal, state lobbyists
Good. So you need us to authorize the board chair, executive director, and the attorney to execute the documents?
If that's the board's direction, that the 150,000 and the 867 going towards those two tasks, and the southwest section is the direction of the board, that would be the request.
Okay.
Make a motion that we redirect this money to the Southwest project.
Motion, Mr. Clay.
Second.
Second, Mr. Nelson. Discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now, when we get going on this, we probably need to get the county commission involved so that we can push for if we're going to do this project, that we have mandatory hookups in these areas.
Yes, sir, that would still be most likely the direction that the county would support us in, that it would be mandatory connection to the sewer system.
I mean, I know we're going to get one hookup over there.
We're going to get
We're going to get two.
Now-
Again, the board is taking the position to reduce the fees again for another year. So we, the board, has certainly taken that direction to minimize where possible the actual connection cost for the OUA. Nothing to do with the on-site connection cost, but at least for those people that are going to connect, there would be that reduction in fees, at least initially to start with. So yes, that would be a part of the process that we would make a presentation to the county commission. In the past, what they've asked for is a specific project for a specific area rather than a blanket area-wide approval. So for Whispering Pines, they did grant that mandatory connection, and I would assume they would do the same for, I can't speak for the DOCC, but I would assume that they would grant that same mandatory connection for the southwest section.
Yeah, I'd make that a priority to get them on board.
Yep.
So that's the deal of it. We would, we'll move forward with that grant, and then we have another agenda item to talk about coming up shortly about the actual nuts and bolts, the financing.
Yeah, I assume we have decided Southwest is going to be what we're going to do, so now it's time to talk to county commission. That's what we were holding on for.
We have certainly made that our priority rankings for projects. So in discussions internally within the OUA or externally, like we have our legislative delegation and we plan for a trip to Tallahassee, our projects are prioritized, 1, 2, and 3, and we would certainly have that same discussion with anybody else. These are our priorities. This is the way we're moving forward.
Now, when we do this, and I'm just jumping way across the board here. Let's say that Bass Pro does come in. Where would that line go?
Well, with Bass Pro, they have a couple options. They have essentially 3 options, and we would have to flush, though no pun intended, flush those out as it happens. But the 3 options are that they could keep the treatment plant where it is now, and we just replace it, refurbish it, put a new plant there. And these are they're not in any particular order. The other option is to build a new treatment plant somewhere else.
Around there. Yep.
Somewhere else down in that region, and convert the existing treatment plant to a pump station and just pump it to that new treatment plant. Another option would then be just to do the same thing, create a pump station there, but then make a relatively long force main to go up the western side of our service area to NW15, which is the regional or master pump station located near the airport. We're doing, the discussion today in the southwest section, and if we choose to do the original force main route, well then from Old Dixie north, that force main would already be in place. So now if they come from the south, they only have to get up to Old Dixie, tie into that force main, and go north up to the master pump station in NW15. So it takes about 18,000 feet of piping off of that project, 2.5 million. So it makes it financially more feasible, to do that route.
And now that's going up Old Dixie?
It's from Old Dixie going up Eagle Bay.
Oh, Eagle
and then
Bay.
Cutting through the edge of Dewberry and all that, and circling around down what was the city limit ditch, the south side of the airport park,
Yeah.
over to NW15. A route really hasn't been picked. I mean, it's just a line on a map to figuratively show the route. If we go that route, we would have to look at the availability of lands and choose the best route on availability of lands and the avoidance of wetlands or threatened endangered species or whatever we would have to avoid. But it would ultimately end up at NW15, which is the one regional station that's right there by the airport, almost by the soccer fields and stuff.
Tom, is that there at the end of Old Dixie, is there a road right away straight on through, or is that?
It looks like it.
It
but
does.
I mean, it's looked like that for years. I honestly
my
don't
lifetime.
know. It very well could be, because that's in the old subdivision of
Dewberry and stuff.
Okeechobee Park.
Okeechobee Park, yeah.
And it may be a paper road. I can't sit here and say whether it is or not without looking at the plat.
Hello, Derek.
Good morning. Okay,
It would make things simpler if it was.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But I really don't know the answer to that. It looks like there was a road there at one time. I mean,
That's, again, we've lived here our whole lives, and to me, that's always been there. But many of people miss the end of that and run down through there.
and I just don't know. I would not be surprised if it is, but I can't sit here and tell you definitely.
Because it cuts that wetland in two.
There is a wetland there, but if there's a plat road there, it appears to be a grade. It's always
Yeah.
appeared to be
Yeah.
a grade there, so I don't know.
And again, a part of that process, if you want to call it due diligence, would be in routing that to know where existing right-of-ways or easements are at, or what we could obtain, and then looking at the lay of the land to see what we need to avoid. But on paper,
I think you could, and I'm just speaking totally out of turn here, but I think once you get to Fort Drum Properties there, you could probably work a deal to cross that if you needed to, which is the piece from the livestock market all the way across.
And the one thing we haven't mentioned, the other issue that we have to be able to deal with is where do we cross the railroad? Because that'll be a fairly significant deal with their regulations for drilling underneath. In the past, essentially what we had to deal with was jack and board, the old style deal where we jack a steel casing underneath their railroad and then put the carrier pipe through it. So they don't really, the last time I looked at their regulations, they don't really allow for pressure conduits with liquid to be directional drilled underneath their tracks.
Well, when you turn to go to the east, you've got those spur crossings as well, if you're going down that right of way. We got some already in place there.
Well,
Well, if you go down Ninth Avenue, we've had this discussion before with the spur tracks. They're not on railroad right of way, they're in the county right of way. And so the debate is whether, if it's in the county right of way, we had this discussion, remember, we wanted to extend the water main, because you got this industrial park with no water main down it. So fire protection or, use, we looked at it then, and a early determination was, since it's in the county right of way, we just adhere to county policy going into those spur tracks.
So it wouldn't be a problem, or we don't think there would be a problem.
That'd save a lot of headaches, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Dealing with the county, then everybody
yeah, I mean, you're looking at, 3 spurs there?
Yeah, but I can tell you right now, you ain't gonna do that. You can jump up behind those spurs, and spurs only go a certain distance into that private property, and I bet you can cut straight across that private property.
You could do that, yes.
Well, we also looked at it just going along the north side of those properties, the south side of the ditch, and then you could always extend it down. But again, when we looked at it, those spurs are in the county right of way, so I would think they would take precedence. And we
Yeah,
would just drill
and
it.
again, the only one, well, the other ones dairy feeds, and I know you could get behind the fence on that and go on private property. But my thing is, you got a heavy industrial park there that you could put a,
To put it further
you
north.
go up, because that's all zoned heavy industrial.
Well, that would definitely avoid the problem, if there was a problem there with
But
it.
we'd have to stay either the south end of the road or on the north end, because we don't know what's going to develop on the property. So we wouldn't want a water main or a force main going through the middle. It would go on the north property line or the south property.
Sure.
So they've got a couple roads in there, but I think that could be easily done.
It would be a benefit.
Oh, and you know how
Obviously,
they are about benefits. I mean, they're all about that, so. And getting, because he talked about looping that water up there beside, the old Kenworth dealership.
Yes.
The main road that goes beside it. He even commented about just if y'all need to run, if we needed to run a water main through there, just shine on with one. Because all it does is make his property more valuable.
I can't see it impacting the property adversely. I really,
If it's not just the property aspect, it's the development aspect. So if someone was able to develop the property, then there are jobs usually associated with that. So it's just better overall for the community if we get that to happen.
And
Or if we help that to happen.
That's a long-range plan there. They've had that for probably close to 30 years now, and they have no intent, you know what I'm saying? It's going to go into the next family. But again, I'm just saying that we could work something there to get across that property.
Okay, John. Any further discussion? Okay, how about agenda item number 12, John, the OUA injection well?
Okay, this is a project that's been in the discussion phase for several months. It is getting closer to happening. What you have at your place setting that was not in the board package is how we develop a cost estimate to do what they call a short-term injection well test for our injection well. The reason for this test is while construction and permitting indicated that there could be a capacity of up to 20 million gallons a day from the well, we have historically run it at something much less, 1 million gallons a day. We've never really tested it long-term to see if we can get 15 MGD out of it. And the district, if they wanted to utilize this well as a part of their estuarine protection program, wants to get 15 million gallons a day through that well. So what we were going to do at the district's behest is to conduct this test, set up a series of temporary pumps and filters, and test it at different flow rates, maximizing at that 15 million gallons per day rate, so that the district could then gather the data and use it for their planning purposes. And since they are getting the data and using it for their planning purposes, they've agreed to fund the cost of this injection well. We do it, we get them the data, and they reimburse us. But it is going to involve the use of our well. We have talked to a potential contractor. They have supplied us with copies of their liability insurance, pollution liability, general liability. So there is that protection for our facility, because there's going to be people on our facility. And we've talked, had an email or two with our carrier, and they agreed that our general liability insurance still protects us. So from a liability standpoint, we seem to be covered with this.
Where are we going to source 15 million gallons a day from?
We have a relatively large line pond on the site that our effluent from the plant gets stored in. That water sits in there until it is either used on our spray field or an adjoining property owner's spray field, or if it gets too full, we send it down the injection well.
Send it down the well.
So I did some really, really rough calculations, and there was probably, if it's full, there's over 30 million gallons in that pond, which is more than enough for what they need for this short-term test.
Okay.
Long-term, if this actually works out, so a couple of years down the road, it works out, and the district elects to make this well happen, we would actually have to bring in a connection, hydraulic connection to Taylor Creek and bring that water up on property so that if they did get into this situation where there was a discharge concern and they didn't want the water going to tide, they could energize their pumps and pump it down our well at a rate of 15 MGD. But we would have to have, say, a new connection to Taylor Creek to bring that water over. So there's been some thinking going on. The game plan is that in this interim between this meeting and our November meeting, we will try to get this situated where we can have all of our T's crossed, I's dotted, some kind of letter of understanding between the OUA and the district, and we could bring back a formal document at the November meeting here, and then 2 days later, governing board meeting, and hopefully we could have some kind of formal agreement ironed out by next November, by November. That's the game plan.
I understand that we're going to be fronting this money up front, and they're going to reimburse us for that. Is that what you
There
said?
would be that letter of understanding that it would pay as you go. So as we meet, step one, task 2, that we just seek reimbursement from the district.
With a 30-day payback or 30-year payback?
Yes. Yes.
It's 90?
Nothing small numbers.
But I mean, again, the Water Management District staff, certainly the governing board has been included in this, just like you all are being included, that this is in the works. And I don't know if there's actually going to be any direction here today other than, no, we don't want to do it. But if the board, OUA board is in agreement with this, we'll bring back a formal agreement next
They're going to,
November.
this is their plan to do this all over the county and Glades County. When you talk to them.
It is one of the wells that they could use, and the benefit for the district is they get data today, or
Yeah.
this year, as opposed to them spending a lot of dollars and drilling their own test wells to try to gather the data. Of course, our benefit is still, the intent of is that if they do want to use this well, there ought to be some compensation, if you will, for the expense that they're using up our capacity, and that expense, those monies could go towards other septic to sewer projects.
Absolutely.
So
Nothing's free.
It's we would lose capacity of the well for some time period, the lease agreement, and they gain that capacity, and we get other projects, wastewater, septic and sewer projects, which ultimately still benefits surface water, lowering nutrient loads into, eventually Lake Okeechobee. So it's still a good deal, all around.
Do you ever see a problem with this if they take control? Let's say they need to move a lot of water rapidly to deal with their problem, that we would have a problem housing our injectable water while they were doing that, or we would have a problem with that?
No, sir, I don't, because their intent right now is to only use it when they have this estuarine discharge deal, so it's not a 24/7, 365 operation. So ultimately, we still have our a little over 300 acres of spray field that we could use. The adjoining property owner still has things that need to be irrigated. We only use the well right now when we absolutely have to, just to exercise it, not on real demand. Now, if we continue to do septic sewer projects, obviously, our flow is going to go up at the treatment plant. But I would imagine that concern would be an element addressed in the memorandum of understanding, whatever we have between the OUA and the district.
Yeah, what we need.
Which establishes the precedence. Who gets to use it first?
Yeah.
Okay.
We own it.
Yeah.
We own it.
Yes, sir.
They're cutting us a $3 million a year check.
They can rent it.
They can read it.
I wanted to follow up on that. We own it, and it ought not to be a lease. From a legal standpoint, it ought to be some type of a joint use agreement, not a lease. A lease indicates that you're giving away some rights as an owner, and I don't think that'd be appropriate. So I'm anxious to see what they come up with as far as a proposal on using that as a source. The other thing I would say is this is not going to solve much of a problem. If you calculate this out and look at the gallonage outflow and compare it to this is a trickle. I mean, it's a step in the right direction.
Right, but they're looking at putting 110 wells just on that one little piece out there.
I mean, they're going to have to put,
Yeah.
to offset that free flow.
Yeah, well, this is, like John said, this is a test well.
A test well.
See if they can
Make it work.
make it, yeah, if they can pump that much water down a well that
And if
size.
they can, then they're all moving to your house.
Are they?
Yep. Yeah, there's 110 wells speculated to go in that piece across the road from Buckhead.
Yeah.
If the Hootie Owls
All
don't
right.
hold them up.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money when you think about the cost per well. So
Yep. Yeah, they got 8,000 or 9,000 acres in there they can.
So no board action is required at this time? We wait to see what they
I
bring
don't,
back.
that's what I would say, yeah.
Unless it's a no.
Is there any no's?
But otherwise.
No on free.
Yeah, no one free.
This is information.
This is information, and certainly we'll bring back, you know, a more formal agreement framework at the November meeting.
All right, folks, moving on. How about agenda item number 13, the Southwest Section financing options?
Agenda item 14.
13.
What you have in front of you is a lot of numbers. I agree with that. And we can certainly walk through, but the intent was that there is 4 possible options for the Southwest section. In the back of this handout that you have, you do have a project layout sheet. So when we start talking about project area 1 or project area 2, it'll give you some idea of the area that we're talking about here that is basically between 16th Avenue, 16th or 15th Street, depending on whether you're in the city or the county, down to 28th, and from essentially around 19th westward to 37th.
And John, do you live in phase 2 or phase 1?
One, he doesn't want.
Phase
To
2
the
is
north
our,
section of phase 1.
Phase 2 is Oak Park, so I'm looking at it upside down.
yeah, phase 1's the eastern section.
Phase 2 is Oak Park.
Okay. I got it now. I know where I'm at.
So as we go through here, there were identified in this report or agenda item 4 options. Option A was just to go ahead and construct the project in total, both phase 1 and phase 2. Option A1 was looking at just doing, well, let me back up. On phase 1 and 2, there would be the red line extending north. 24th Avenue is the force main that would extend up to eventually terminating at NW15. Option A1 was just to construct phase 1, but rather than go up to NW15, which is north, it would extend eastward down Old Dixie to eventually tie into an existing force main that goes to pump station SE2, which is on southeast 7th Street. I'm trying to decide if it was 6th or 7th Street, but on southeast 7th Street. For the long-term residents, the old wastewater treatment plant site for the city many years ago at the end of 7th Street. It's now a park or something there. Option B is to do this in these projects in a phasing. Do phase 1 first, followed at a later date by phase 2. And option C is to reverse that, do phase 2 first, followed by phase 1 eventually. So how do we get around these projects? What you see behind the sheet, obvious, we can go through it, but there is some individual costing for these four options. Once we get through the costing, we then try to address the potential revenue sources to do these projects. The revenue sources potential being elimination of existing debt service payments, rate adjustments to the wastewater, understanding that new wastewater connections, those revenues could be pledged to payment of the construction loan, property assessments, or any combination thereof. So we turn the page, we look at option A. Option A is to do both pages at the same time. Onto this particular sheet, you will see two columns of numbers. On the left-hand side is the planning and design cost, which comes up very different. Loan package, if you will. It does get capitalized or interest charged along with the servicing fee. The planning design phase totals around $938,000 for option A. Construction, including the service fee and no interest, because these are actually no interest loans now, totals a little over $11,700,000. When you look at these notes, amortized over 20 years with or without interest, depending on whether it's planning or construction, you look at an annual debt service cost that George and I like to look at as $638,000 per year to pay off that loan over a 20-year period.
Now, we had spoken last meeting about what would be the best, either to hold that money we had from the land sales or pay down debt. Did we ever get any further down on that?
Right after I get to talking
Okay.
about these options will be the revenue.
Did I miss something?
And that would be
Piece of the
coming up.
puzzle that hadn't come up yet.
Oh, okay.
So we'll go through these other options very quickly. They're all about the same, set up the same way. A1, left-hand column is your planning design cost. Right-hand column is the construction cost. What you need to draw your attention down to is the net annual debt service payment is $422,000 change, almost $423,000 a year over the 20-year period. Option B is the next page, and set up very, very similar. Left-hand column is the planning design, right-hand column construction cost. You have the debt service associated with phase one, debt service associated with phase 2. When they're both complete, the estimated annual debt service is at $672,000. This is what we would have to be in our budgeting process every year. We have to allocate a revenue stream to pay down that $672,000. The next page is option C. Again, it's set up the same way, doing phase 2 first, followed by phase 1, giving us a total annual debt service of around $677,000. Knowing those four numbers is what does it do for our annual debt service. We have to come up with a revenue stream on how to meet those new annual debt service. So turning over to the next page is the first discussion on a revenue source, and that is the elimination of existing debt service associated with SRF2. We show you that the current balance for SRF2 is a shade under $3 million. We have set aside the land sales cost proceeds of almost $1.9 million. If we pair that with $1 million out of the operating reserve fund, we could pay off SRF2 at this present time, and that would save us $318,644 in annual debt service. That money could then be shifted to one of those options, from A to C, helping to lower that annual. So the next column down, the next segment down shows you the annual debt service cost for options A, A1, B, and C. If we subtract out the $318,644, there is the new annual debt service cost that we would have to meet for those options A through C.
Looks a whole lot better.
Well, it's getting better.
Yeah.
We're going to whittle that down a little bit more as we proceed through some of these documents. So now we know if the board so directs us to pay off SRF2, we're now looking at new annual debt service cost anywhere from $104,000 to $358,000, down from the $600,000 we were looking at on the previous page. If we flip the page, we're now getting into numbers, so I thought I would throw in colors to help really try to change things around. We had some discussions with our rate consultant, PRMG. We're talking about bringing on anywhere from 268 to 738 new customers. Under our current budget scenarios, we meet all of our existing wastewater expenses through the existing wastewater rates that we just adjusted. So a concept could look at all of these new customers up to 738. What about their monthly pledged revenues for the base charge of $21.71? If we put it into the general budget, it's added money that we didn't count on. And we're talking about if this was constructed as of today. So in talking to the rate consultant, they basically said, look, you could take around 52% of it and pledge that towards debt service, or you could go up to 100%. They kind of indicated we could go to 100%. I would tell you my own personal belief is I would not like to go into a 20-year note knowing I'm pledging 100% of these revenues against the debt because I know something is going to break in 20 years. A pump is going to go bad, a regulator is going to go. So I would suggest, and George and I have batted this back and forth several times, but I'm just suggesting I went with a 52% number, leaving that other 48% to pay for the unknowns as that might happen over the 20-year time period. So if we follow that analogy, the blue numbers are those assigned to the 52%. If you look under this first deal, options A, B, C, A1, B, and C were reduced to these 319 to 104. If you look at the amount of money that 738 new customers bring in, it's $100,000 a year. Take that off this annual debt service because we can pledge it. You drop down anywhere from $40,000 to $257,000. So you can see we're whittling down this annual debt service cost if we do, under this analogy, with all the customers, 738. So that's doing both phase one and phase two, say under option A. Under the other one, that number drops a little bit. If you notice on A1, the blue number goes down to 64,000 because we're only talking about connecting up the maximum potential of 470 customers, 470 per phase one. The other ones are all at 100,000. If you're so inclined to use the 100% number, well, those are the red numbers down below in the next grouping, and you can see the benefit of counting 100%. It lowers that annual debt service unpaid amount even lower.
Well, we'll have the funds. I mean, if we do the 52%, it's not like you're going to be spending the other 48%.
That's correct.
You know what I'm saying? So if we wanted to pay more, we could.
Right.
So,
So-
correct?
So yes, you could. There may be other sources. So if you look in between there, I said, well, if you wanted to do a rating adjustment, a rate increase for option A, at $219,000, if you raise the rate 64%, you would generate $220,000 based upon current FY19 revenue stream, or 1.5, 7. You can see the percentages there. So if you want to go into this, and we don't have to have this decision made today, but if you wanted to go into this, this is a way we could come out of there owing no new debt service, and we would have that totally covered by FY19 revenues, the revenue stream.
And this is without any grant money other than
Yes, sir, that's a valid point. It's not getting any other state appropriation, grants, anything else, which you'll see a document on your other place today. There are some grants out there that we would pursue. We still are hoping for some legislative help in changing some rules that would make some grant monies available to us. This is just worst case scenario, upfront, total loan packages. It's only going to get better. from these numbers, only benefit. So again, you can go into it knowing that if we do option A, and we do a combination of 52% this, and we do have to have a rate adjustment of the 6.25%, we could be totally whole.
John, what's our annual debt service now?
30,
Well, it's the, if you go back here,
Did I miss it?
no, sir, it's not in there, but I can tell you that starting out, SRF2 alone is 318,000. You have probably, George, do you remember what the bank quality, the BB&T, A and B? Oh, I can tell you. Sorry. I just have to do something.
it's a total debt of 29 million, isn't it? Isn't that what it was?
So you look at the receipt, not yet. We have two other loans, BB&T A and B, or 2010 and something. Well, they got some names. He'll tell you what those are, your debt service. But it's going to be somewhere north of that 318,644. Probably close to like 500,000.
What's the question again?
What's the total debt service statement? SRS and BB&T.
Put aside 227,000 a month, so times 12. That's 207,
Okay, and what's the total debt owed?
about 27 to 29 million.
Right now, it's a little over 27.
Million. Okay, good deal. It's a long ways from 44, 6 years ago.
Well, again, through obviously our annual payments and/or our early debt retirement, which I think was around $6 million. The benefit of that all went towards principal, so
Yep.
we also saved on the interest
Interest
that we're
rates,
no
yeah.
longer paying.
Fantastic.
You have a very compelling argument. I like the numbers I'm hearing, but what scares me is that 1.8 that needs to be held in reserves for the problems. You know, before, when I was an alternate on the board, we decided to pay down debt, which basically liquidated our healthy reserve, and we were relying on having land. You know, we had that to always fall back on. We don't have that anymore. We've spent it. I just don't want to be caught with a deficit in our reserve. With a 52.3%, I know that'll start accumulating, but it'd take like 20 years to get back up to the 8 point.
It certainly would help to replenish the million that we're taking out of the operating reserve account, along with the 1.8, 1.9 million from the land sale. But if there is any comfort in this, keep in mind that through board action, establishing very strong financial policy, you set up a 90-day account for reserve, which is well and above what many municipalities carry. They carry more like anywhere from 30 to 60 days. We have 90. We also set aside a 30-day amount that would go towards emergency reserve action if we had a catastrophic failure of something. We have a 30-day reserve account also set aside for those emergencies. If you remember, we did have a pump station that had some significant damage to it, and we had a spill, and there was just a lot of money we had to come up with to pay. So that's why we set up that 30-day reserve. So essentially, from an operating capital standpoint, we have 120 days if you really wanted to use that money to cover us. So I think from that standpoint, yes, we have money set aside. Now, where we ran into a little bit of an issue with that early debt retirement we did before, the other thing, that money was set aside to help try to offset construction costs from the property owner perspective. And by us using up the reserve, this 1.9 million, that would not be available for any future projects. But keep in mind that SRF2, I think the interest is around 2.3%, and we're going to earn about 2.5 or 6 at best with interest on the 1.8 million. So it's essentially a wash. If we take that money, pay off the loan, we're not paying the 2.3% interest on the loan, and we're not earning the interest on the money. But your point is well taken, that if we spend that 1.9 million now, we do not have it in the future. That is a valid point.
Just question, if we are to get state help with this through the legislature, could we ease up the strain on some of that 1.8 to supplement that? You know, work on the numbers that we're working here. This the annual debt service looks great. I mean, with what we're doing, increasing 730 customers and dropping our debt service, that's just spectacular with the numbers you're crunching. But let's say we get $1 million from other sources, would we be able to put that money back into our reserve and instead of stressing our land sale money we have right now?
I don't know, because typically those monies go towards project-specific expenses, either the planning and design or the construction. And what we're using this money for is to pay down annual debt service.
Okay.
Nothing related with the southwest section. We're just trying to, now, if we get grant money, or, then our construction cost goes down, so the expected annual debt service goes down, and we might make it up that way. We don't have to do SRF2 liquidation today. It is an option if you wanted to move that forward. And now for this budget year, we save $318,000. But we don't have to do SRF2 right now. We could wait to see if we get some grant money or appropriation money, and how does that affect the $11 million cost, and on the front end, and on the back end, lower the annual debt service we would be expecting to pay.
What do we have in reserves total, gross dollar?
120,000.
We have 500,000 in renewal, replacement, and improvement reserve. We've got 30 days in the emergency reserve fund, which is about 6.25. Then we have the operating reserve fund, which is 3 times that. So that's about $1.8 million. So those three add up to roughly $3 million. And then the land sales money is on top of that. And
So we got $3 million basically to operate off of.
we got $3 million set aside
Side
just for reserves.
for reserves, yes.
You say that is equivalent to 4 months, 120 days?
Sir?
You said that's equivalent to 4 months, 120 days?
Well, plus the 500,000 on top of that.
Okay.
And best practices from the government financial officer's website is you only should have 60 days.
Right.
So we're well above 60 days.
Right now, we're rocking along at what, 10 million a year in cost?
Yeah, with a $638,000 deficit.
Yeah, again, those are just the reserves. I mean, we have
Right,
about 3 million in operating account too.
right. But that was just our reserves.
Yeah, just the
So you're
reserves.
3 million in reserves, 3 million in operating account,
Plus the 2 million.
plus the 2 million. So we're pretty healthy.
And we're running in deficit spending of what, $600,000 a year? That's why we're trying to adjust the rates and everything. Where does that money come from to make up the deficit?
Well, we did adjust the rates. So the
Okay.
deficit spending this year is approximately 180,000.
Right.
If we spend all the budget, but historically, we've always come in low on expenses, as
Right.
you've just seen in this report.
You're seeing this, yes.
So we might, and that deficit spending is only because of we have to make the debt service coverage ratio.
Right.
If we didn't have to meet the debt service coverage ratio, we'd still be positive.
Yep.
So that would help that tremendously, that paying down the SRF loan, or paying off
Yeah,
the SRF.
again,
It would-
the budget being what the budget is, it's a best guess at what our revenue stream coming in and the expenses going out. And even though you saw the financial report today, we'll still have another 30 days where we get old bills coming in and paying. So we still got to adjust that, if you will, the 13th month type of deal. But historically, we've been able to meet our budget expectations both on the revenue stream as well as the
And if
expenses.
today, if we gave you the approval on this cost could start looking a lot better.
So, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you for answering that.
So
I
it's-
appreciate that.
This is, I don't want to say this is the worst case, but we tried to give you a way that if you wanted to come out of this hole, we could. Now, the one we just went through was only looking at the allocation of the new customers and a rate increase. There's a third option, and we can go over that, or you can, talk about it. but we could do assessments for those properties receiving the benefit of this service, which again would help lower the rate increase that would be expected because the properties receiving the benefit of the sewer system might have to pay, $100 a year for 20 years or whatever we set as the assessment. So that would start taking like this 6.7% projected rate increase down to 3% or something, depending on how you want to set the assessments.
One thing we're not considering is future growth. We still have the potential of future growth of resorts and other customers.
Well, that's always been true, that if you put the infrastructure in and then they come, there's something for them to connect into. Right now, in the southwest section, if somebody wants to develop a parcel, they're going with a septic tank. So if we put a collection system in, there is that potential for...
Yeah, the piece there, they're behind the Catholic Church that we would be going right along the edge of. That's already, the guy, I guess, doesn't have the money to do it, but that's what that was a housing development right down the street from you.
Yeah.
And there's 60 acres in there probably.
Yeah, and he's cleared it now.
Yeah, he's working on it.
There is some development looked at on that same parcel just north of 6th Street, if you will.
Right.
Northwest 6th Street, and then just west of 7th Avenue.
Yep.
There is some talk, again, where that is looking to be, the current discussion is maybe a church going in there. So, again, it's the same discussion that we've had in the past, that if they extend the gravity sewer from, I think, about 10th Avenue eastward, that you've got whoever's developing that property for whatever reason, the other vacant parcel on the north side of 6th Street, the church looked at joining in because they had some expansion plans, and quite conceivably the OUA could go into it. So if there was a cost to extend the gravity sewer, we collectively could look at it as a split 4 ways for that cost.
Yeah,
I'm looking more overly broad, like Okatani, and then you've got those Big O's and all those down there that I'm looking at as potential customers to come in to hit the corridor that's going up to the airport.
Connor said he would hook, I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but John said he would hook up with his park, which is right there, at Scott Driver. So there's a automatic.
So we
think it's a
can
win.
go through any more of these pages, and you can look back through there. There is the assessment methodology. The assessment methodology, if we chose to do the amount that we're talking about here, lowers the rate adjustment to a little over 3%, which when you start talking about adding 740 potential customers, thereabouts approximately, coupled with the total loan package, the allocation of the new customers, monthly service charge, along with assessments and rate adjustment, it's a fairly viable financial package that we could look at if we went forward with this option A.
Yep. And the height is the density over there with Oak Park and the piece there behind Keith and Mark and all them, that's almost built out down Shepherd, is it? That's almost built out now. Then around on the other side of it, they've built all those homes in there behind Tom. So the density's pretty high over there.
It certainly, again, it opens up the possibility for other development. Once the sewer becomes available along with the water, it makes it much more viable for construction.
The density's nice, but the problems we're dealing with septic tank backups flowing into ditches and things like that, that's bad.
Yeah, and that's the whole deal, is get that fixed first and then starts scattering out over there.
All right.
Essentially what we would like to be able to get out of this is if we could at least provide direction to staff what would be the preference of the board between the options, and as we consider the options, whether the board would be receptive to, at some point in time in the future, doing the SRF payoff, and give us direction which way we need to go. And again, we can talk about this option in front of you. The deadline is coming up on us very quickly, November 15th for this grant. But I need clear direction that which option we're going to go with, so I know how to put together a proposal for this water restoration assistance grant.
Do the entire one.
I was going to ask a question, John. Yeah, if we went with option A,
Yes, sir.
full phase, does that, we can schedule construction how we want, 1, 2, 2, 1, once we get the funding, right? We're not obligated to just go in there and hit it as full.
Clearly. I
So
mean,
we can still do it in
What we're going to go
phases.
with is with the full package. If you wanted to choose one of these other options, the deal is we would only go in with that first phase, whether it's 1 or 2, and that's what we would pursue. Once we start that phase, if we wanted to do the second one, we would do a whole other loan package application for that. If you tell me today, option A is the preference, and we understand that SRF2 sounds like a good deal, we know what we're going for, and we just go for it and make this submittal that's due by November 15th.
It's like selling cars. You start high.
Got any opinion, sir?
You can always go
Well-
down, but you can't ever go up.
Well, it's always easier to trim than.
It's easier to trim.
Yeah, get some opinion from our council, please.
I mean, I'll give you, I'm not here to talk about business advice, but the recommendation from staff, if you look at the last page here, is, and I really agree with what you're saying on this, for 2 reasons. Number one, the money that we have from the land sales doesn't generate that much interest. So if you take the SRF loan, if you're paying off use that money to pay off the SRF loan, you're getting the equivalent on that money of the money that you're saving in the interest that you're having to pay on the loan. When you apply that against the interest coming in from it doesn't balance, because it's costing you more on the loan than the interest you're getting in on that investment. Now, staff's recommendation is to pay off the SRS number 2 loan, and I agree with that. And the 52.3% offset on the value of the income, the increase in the rate of the 3.25%, and the annual assessments, and I can't believe there'd be much objection to any of those. And I have no problems with what staff's recommending on this, to use option A.
I agree.
I agree too. Don't need to go back many times. Let's go.
Let's go once.
Let's go jump on it. That's my thoughts.
Go after the,
Thanks, Steve.
after the whole pie. If we can get a piece of the pie, we're good.
So if we
That
would
money's
like,
spent.
then certainly, I would throw out there for a topic of discussion that there would be this, if you will, motion that we go for option A. The rest of this would fall in as we get to it. But that we go with option A, and board and/or staff, whether I have to get the chairman's signature or the board attorney's signature, to go ahead and file the paperwork for this water restoration grant assistance due by November 15th.
I make a motion that we direct Mr. Hayford and staff to move forward with trying to pick up this grant of the Division of Water Restoration Assistance.
Motion by Mr. Clay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Discussion? Discussion being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So
What we will chase is the option A, the SRF2, and any rate increase or assessment. That's something that we would work out down the road.
Now, wouldn't it be simpler if we concurred with staff's recommendation here with the SRF loan? It's all broke out in pieces?
If that's what you're asking, because obviously option A seems to be the correct option to be selected with these provisions attached to it.
Right, this is a little more specific with what they're
This
talking about.
is.
And
I'd be a little early, though, to get that specific, to
Is
wait
it?
and see if, we do get a grant or something that could change those numbers.
Okay.
I think all you're looking for is a direction at this point to go with option A.
If the consensus of the board, certainly that's the first and foremost, choose an option, which is option A. If for planning purposes, that the consideration that SRF2, we could pay it off at some time in the future, if that's still a board direction, that goes a long way towards looking at that annual debt service. Again, unless y'all tell me today that you want to make a motion that we go pay it off, that's fine. But just so we know that it is going to be done at some time in the future, it gives us that planning guidance that that's where we would be chasing.
Yeah, I think you put that as part of the A, like you have it, as that we're going to pay that off. I mean, like you say, you don't have to do it today, but, you know, the next couple meetings, we probably need to, as we move forward, to make that.
It will be a further discussion as we get closer. Now that we know option A, we chase these different applications. The steps that we would bring back would be that we would go out for engineering proposals, because we have to bring those engineers on board to start this whole planning process. Staff, we would look at going through the SRF application process and get all of those things started. But as we get closer, then that's when we're going to have to make some financial decisions, like paying off SRF2, rate adjustments, assessments, whatever. It's going to come back to you.
Okay, you can do all your calculations. This is what the direction we're going to have, but we're not giving you approval to go ahead at this time.
Well, the only thing we got today is option A, and move forward with this loan grant application.
Gotcha.
I have not looked at it, so I don't know what's required in there. But if we get that blanket deal, submit, then I know that's what I've got to do, and I can get the chairman or the board attorney to execute, or me to execute the documents necessary to move forward with this November 15th deadline.
Yes, sir.
So the action ought to be limited to directing staff to go forward with the pursuit of option A. Then you can come back and flesh it out.
That sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
You're getting closer to a septic tank.
Yay. Tell you what, I'll go out there with a shovel and help them dig it out this time.
Tom's getting closer.
Okay, we good to go with this, John? Or Tom? Do we need to re-motion that?
Well, actually, what was the motion after all this discussion now?
Directed staff to proceed with the grant application for Division of Water Restoration Assistance.
In connection with the approval of option A?
We didn't put that in.
But we can.
That's where we need
You want that in
to.
the second motion?
Okay.
Okay, do a separate, I think you ought to do a separate motion directing staff
Okay.
to proceed with option A.
All right. I make a motion that staff proceeds with option A.
Motion by Mr. Clutt.
Second.
Second, Mr. Nelson. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. All right, you know where you're going now.
See,
Agenda item number 14, investment report and investment policy revisions. Oh, we just did this.
this is a requirement that we have to give to the board, where our investment policies are. George,
Yeah, the policy says that we should give you an annual report. And so this is an annual report as of fiscal year end. So at fiscal year end, we had 5 investments, a 6-month T-bill with a cost of $692, and when 6 months elapses, we'll get $700,000. That difference is the interest. At September 30th, we had 4 one-year CDs, and they total approximately $1,780,000, and they all matured on October 4th. And they were for the purposes of the Renewal and Replacement Improvement Fund. That's the $500,000 I spoke about before. Emergency Reserve Fund, which was $574 at the time, and in the new budget, it's $625. And then you had 2 CDs, C and D, which total $700,000, which are part of the money for the Operating Reserve Fund. The rest of the money for the Operating Reserve Fund is in a money market account, earning 1.5%. So last Thursday, we took the money from the 4 one-year CDs and turned around and bought Treasury bills. We bought $895,000 worth of 3-month Treasury bills and $905,000 worth of 6-month Treasury bills. And the rates on those were, 6 months were, let's see here, 214. For the 3 months was 214, and the 6 months was 232. And since rates in the marketplace are going up because of actions by the Federal Reserve, we decided to go short to take advantage of the rates going up in the future. So that's the investment report. And when I purchased 6-month T-bills back in September, I got the big hint that we should present to them a new policy, because I couldn't find anything where the board had approved it before. So that's one of the reasons I have that in here. Got the hint that we really should have something more formalized to present. So I took our old policy and made some revisions to it, which are all highlighted in red. If you go to page 1, I thought the title policy was more appropriate than plan. You go to page 2, I thought it would be helpful if right at the front we said that it was authorized by Florida statutes. It's kind of buried later in the policy, but I thought it'd be real helpful if it was right in the front so no one would overlook it. Article 4B certainly looked like it was a typo. The word was requested, so I changed it to registered. Next page, I believe, from past experience, I've had good experience on 270-day commercial paper. The policy said 90. So I made that change there, or recommending that change there. Under L, they were talking about derivatives. I really don't think we should look at derivatives, so I struck that from the policy. Again, that's with board approval. Under Article 5, I just clarified that my position is Finance Director, not Supervisor of Finance. Number 7, I made some clarifications there. And I added the word "are" in the bottom to make that clearer. At the bottom of page 4. Under Article number 9, basically through our budget process, we do prepare a cash flow forecast. So it would have to be something really catastrophic like we talked about, where we had to go into our reserve funds that we really need an outside consultant. So I changed the language there to be kind of fit that. And then on the last page, right at the bottom, I talked to our partner on our audit, and this is what he suggested as a way that would be cost effective to accomplish the same thing. So I changed the wording there for that purpose. So those are the recommended changes for the board to approve our policy, and then something that we could provide to our brokers in terms of making future investments.
Tom, you have any issues with it?
No, I'd already looked at it. I don't have a problem with it. He addressed the one question that I had about it. No, it's fine.
Okay.
I would recommend approval of it.
So I make a motion that we accept the Okeechobee Utility Authority investment policy with the new changes.
Motion, Mr. Clegg.
Second.
Second, Mr. Nelson. Discussion? Any discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Gall.
You're welcome.
Public comment. Going, gone. Items from the attorney.
I still don't have all of the evaluations.
I'm not the
Number
last
one.
Is it you?
Pretty sure it's something like 500 something.
I'm not calling any names.
He
Number,
just admitted it.
no, I didn't point any fingers. I was careful with that
Well, when
comment.
you sent that last week, I stopped what I was doing and went and printed it off and done it.
I have 4.
Still missing 4, or you
Yeah.
have 4?
I have 4.
Oh, okay.
And if I don't get the final ones, I'll just do my summary on the 4. I don't know. It's incomplete, but at least I'll have 4.
It takes you 10 minutes.
The other thing that's come up, and I don't know whether we want to discuss that here or not, John, and that has to do with the 46th Avenue villas. We have a proposal on settling that matter out there. The one remaining stumbling block, if there is one, is that long mobile home that's there. It comes up that the landowner doesn't own that mobile home. It's owned by a private renter that's there on that property. We went in and we were able to remove and replace a couple of pumps that are in the lift station where that impediment is. And the landowner is saying, well, that shows that you guys can get in there, we'll be glad to give you the easement that you need. But as I understand from John, the other issue is the fact that the pumper truck is much larger than the boom truck to get in to pump that facility out. I don't have the answer on that, but that appears to be the only, the one issue that's keeping us from getting that resolved.
Where's this at?
46th Avenue Villas.
46th Avenue Villas, it's.
Mitchell Road?
Yes, off of Mitchell Road.
Okay.
And we gave them probably 6 or 7 elements that they had to agree to. They agreed to all of them except the easement issue, where Mr. Rocky brought in a longer than normal mobile home out there that stretched into the easement access where we would be able to get to this pump station. So to get around that, he filled in a portion of the stormwater pond and said you can go around it into the pump station. Well, the issue I had with that is, besides the point of filling in a stormwater pond, but be that as it may, is that when we have to get our vacuum truck in there, it's wider than the normal service truck, it's longer than the normal service truck, and it is going to weigh much, much more. It holds 2,500 gallons of liquid waste. So the issue is, can we get that truck in there? Because now we have to kind of back it in at an angle. It goes off onto this area that he backfilled. Is it going to support the weight? That's what we have to determine.
That
Our
back truck
position,
probably weighs
sir,
30,000 pounds, I bet.
it's quite heavy. So we might be able to back in there empty, but I don't know if we can get it out full, one of those type of deals. So the issue that we had proposed to him is there are other areas within the park that trailer could be put. We understand that he may not own all the trailers, but he owns the land, he's renting the land. That trailer didn't belong there, move it and put it somewhere else. That was our only request. So then we have free, unfettered access to the pump station. What we intend to be able to do is to take our pump truck out there and try it, see what happens. Does it get stuck? Does it get in? Or does it not? If we can get in and out of there okay, and that's agreeable to our maintenance staff because they're the ones, driving the truck and getting it in there, then we probably do have the grounds for an agreement. And that would settle all litigation aspects.
Yeah, it would.
How deep is the pond that they filled in?
Gonna guess, probably 3 years maybe.
No, how deep?
How deep is the pond?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea. I want to stay away from that one. Well, nothing.
I mean, my point is you're backing in there and,
Well, if we could back a loaded truck in there,
yeah, but my point is you're backing in where he's filled up a pond on the side. If he hasn't taken the bank out far enough and you're 30,000 pounds, I'd say minimum. Well, the side gives way and now you're laying on your side in there.
The problem is the fact that he's probably going to have to go and get approval from the permit in order to do that from water management.
Oh, he hasn't already done it?
oh, that was not a part of my deal, whatever he did.
Boy, y'all are running from that like it's got.
I mean,
I mean,
and I'm not saying that in defense of him, I'm just saying that logistically, that may be a difficulty.
And so again,
You better out enough to know you start filling in a corner or something. If you don't go out far enough, it'll give way
well,
with you.
especially when he fills it in wet, I mean, you're not gonna get any anyway,
Yeah.
again, if we can get a truck in and out of there, then. you know,
Then that won't be a problem.
It's solved, this would solve.
Yeah, I'd recommend you take a truck and a wrecker out there and give it a whirl.
I mean, we don't get in there very often, I mean.
Well, that's the next thing.
Then come back and let us know how it worked
The
out.
point he just made, if you get in there and get stuck, can you get a wrecker in there?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
And so what we would have to do, and again, in trying to get into it, because of the way we would be angled to pull out, we have to actually drive back in through the park. And can we make the corners back in the back, especially on the weekend when cars are present, trees are in the way? We're just going to try and see.
You guys been dealing with this guy since I've been on the board.
And the roads are narrow. It's almost one-lane roads in there, so I mean,
The benefit of it is if we can come to terms, it's settled, the appropriate legal terminology, but the lawsuit would be whatever.
oh yeah, releases and easements and dismissals and all of that stuff, but yes.
And at the end of the day, we would deliver water to the master meter on the edge of the property. The park owner would take care of the distribution of the water system on site. The park owner is going to take care of the collection system on site. We would take ownership at the pump station and the force main lead. That's what we would own, operate, and maintain. Right now, because they've had problems with their pump station, we're out there doing repairs for them.
When you go try it, be sure to videotape it.
That was going to be my next expense, a drone for the OUA, so
I'll lend you mine.
As soon as we get computers, you get your drone. All right, anything else, sir?
One more thing. At John's request, I put together a letter to go to the DOT on the extension of State Road 710. I know that some of you have also written letters. I've one put together, and if it's with your permission, I'll send it on behalf of the OUA board, telling them in essence that we feel like there's going to be a severe impact on us with our wastewater, groundwater treatment plant, and that they might, as mitigation, do something for us with increasing our limit on the withdrawal from Lake Okeechobee, but that would not be a complete mitigation because we still need the backup system for the major one. We suggest that the project be located further north to avoid adversely impacting our groundwater treatment facility. I left it open to them. I mean, this way they're on notice. We've got a problem.
Yep.
If they go whereas projected.
Sounds good to me.
Ready to send?
Yes, send it.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm saying it's done with the approval of the board. Fair enough. That's all that I have for you guys.
Thank you. Items from the executive director.
you have most of my comments there, and I'll just touch on them briefly. Whispering Pines is moving forward quite rapidly, either, again, through a very good contractor, good weather, luck, whatever you want to call it. I mean, all the piping is in the ground. Much of it has been approved by DEP to place into service. The problem that we're running into is getting folks in to sign up applications and to connect to the system, even based upon the free service that the OUA, the CDBG, the county is providing to them. We still get resistance of people signing up. So I sent them a final letter giving them to November 1st to come in, sign up. If not, you're on your own.
Free's too expensive.
I don't understand. I don't know. We're getting more people. We have people that have said they would not do it, and they're coming in to sign up. So they understand the benefit to the property as far as this water delivered to them. And no connection cost. No, they still have to pay a deposit. They'll still get a monthly bill, but based upon the county and the CDBG monies, the OUA board providing monies, it's free.
Golly,
And
you know,
we
they're-
have trouble getting people to connect up to it.
Their septic tanks and their wells are not 50 feet apart out there.
In some of the properties, that is true. They're very small. So we'll work towards that. I just want you to understand that we did, I sent them a letter saying that November 1st, we can't stretch this out anymore. Come in and sign up. We'll put the pipe on your property. You'll connect in, good to go. After that, it'll go back to the mandatory connection policy and then paying the full fees, because we just can't stretch this out. Contractor wants to call it done, get certified, get all the stuff, go on to the next project.
No. You mean after November, they'll pay full hookup fees or what?
The grant will not be paying the connection cost,
Okay.
and that included from the meter to the well.
To the house, right, yeah.
So there is, right now, the way I see it, to that residential property, there is no cost to get water from the
Into the
street
house,
to the
right.
house.
Yeah.
The grant and the OUA paid for all of it. But we can't stretch this out month after month because the contractor wants to close out the contract, get his retainage, and go on to his next project.
John, didn't this board set the policy 30 days after construction? Wasn't that the way we worded it?
Yes, sir, and all the pipe is in the ground,
So we're there.
November 1st is easily going to give them more than that 30-day
I
window.
think that's more than fair.
As you can see, the cost of living in the merit is in progress. It says Southwest, please forgive my typing skills. Southeast 8th Avenue, RFP is out, been advertised, asking for proposals to be delivered back for the water main replacement. Mr. Nelson is going to be a part of the review process of those proposals, and we would generate a ranking of those proposals, and we get back and bring it back to the board for acceptance of that ranking and telling us to proceed with negotiating with them. So it's in the works. Hopefully, I think that'll be back by the November board meeting, the rankings of those engineering projects. And remember, that's where we had some AC pipe and cast iron pipe that has caused us some maintenance headaches several times over. So we're going to replace that. There was also a request that the board consider the potential, if we would, moving the regular meeting times from 8:30 to 10 a.m., still on the second Tuesday of the month. I didn't know if there was going to be any feelings one way or another over moving those times.
How about Monday morning?
Monday morning, 10 o'clock would work for me.
Guys, I travel out Monday and then I travel home Monday night to make this meeting. It'd be a lot easier on me to be here on a Monday and then leave.
We would have to definitely check with Sharon to see if the room's available, but
Again, I'm just saying, I'll continue to do what I'm doing, but it will make my life a lot easier to stay here Monday morning and go to the meeting and then travel.
At the November, any changes we make, we can do it any time, but either at the November meeting or certainly no later than the December meeting, we do give you the projections for the meeting dates for the next year, calendar year, as well as holidays. So we can bring something back at the November meeting, what we would have for next year, or if we want to make a change right now, we can, and we just re-advertise for November, we'll advertise for a change. If it's going to a Monday or Monday at 10, whatever the board's decision.
I'm not trying to be pushy, I'm just stating my case. I drove out yesterday morning and 150 miles home last night. So then when I leave here today, I got to go back. Unless y'all just want to keep me off the board.
The day doesn't matter, the time, unfortunately for me, yes.
What time's
It
your best
does.
time?
where it is right now, you have to understand that there are certain rules and regulations that I have to abide by state and feds.
I'm flexible. Only thing I'm asking is if we could do it on a Monday helps me.
That doesn't, I mean, I don't want to hold anybody back either.
Does that hurt you guys?
Mondays? Yeah. Just long weekends.
Yeah, but you're on a long weekend.
You actually make a point there. There may be, we don't really necessarily.
That's true,
call
yeah,
bank
holiday
holidays,
weekends, yeah.
But there are certain Mondays that if we project for next year, we would
Project
have
this
to
change.
address those Mondays that are.
Yeah, but
holidays.
Adjust those.
Yeah, you kick those to Tuesday because I'm still going to be here on that Monday holiday.
Right. I'm just saying that there may be some Mondays based on holiday schedule we may have to miss.
And again, I'll do
Labor Day
whatever.
Or whatever the case may be.
I'll be here as much as I can, no matter what we do. But the Mondays would just make my life a little easier.
Okay, if I may, I'm the one that the 10 o'clock applies to. I potentially am, been offered employment, and I would not be available before 10 o'clock on mornings, and I would just not be able to be here. I would be the one that would, and I'm only one person. And that's why I talked to John about it. But what puzzles me is, and it's puzzled me since I came on this board 6 years ago, is we're a volunteer board. Most everybody on this board works. Why do we schedule meetings that will interrupt with our work time? Why don't we do them in the evenings? I know we've discussed it, but my gosh, we got to take off work. It's economical strain on a lot of people when we have to leave to come in. Not that I'm trying to sway it, but I'm just confused why we don't meet in the evenings when we're all off work. Because we're a volunteer board. We're not compensated, and we have to take off work to be here.
I got a bunch of stuff going on in the evening.
And you're in the school board.
I can see that you wouldn't be wearing them funny goggles, would you? That come out of the cooler.
That's, my only problem is that school board meets the same day. This is my meeting day, so start with you guys, and I'll wind up tonight with the school board, so.
I'm the culprit for the 10 a.m. And
quit.
once again, I'm just one person. If the board says they can't do that, and Tom, that's, you said you can't, and I understand that too. I can yield to that, and just, we'll make the decision next year whether we'll be back on the board or not.
Sounds good. Well, so a lot of things can change between now and then.
Just so I'm clear though, if for November, are we still going to be meeting on Tuesday at 8:30 a.m.?
I thought we just discussed Monday.
You tell me what, I was just listening to some of the conversation, I don't know if there was you want to make it Monday in November at 10 a.m.?
It would help me,
Make it Monday.
and doesn't matter what time. I can be here
I may
anytime.
miss some Mondays, but, I mean, seriously, I may miss some Mondays because I take
I'd
off,
rather
you
miss them
know.
all, so
but,
it's just because timing. So that's okay.
But even on Tuesday, you would,
We've done it
I
for
won't be
Tuesday for
available
years
till
and
after,
years
till
and
10 o'clock.
years. I mean,
True.
oh, till 10 o'clock every morning.
Work is fine.
Let me at least throw this other one in. Before, if we change the time or the day, I will need to go to the county because this facility is their nice facility and I have to see
Let's
the
just
county.
talk about it.
Let's bring it back next month.
Yeah, just bring it back next
Well,
month. We see where he's at.
if 10 o'clock is available next Tuesday, I could try to reserve it then and just give you all an email that we're moving the 8:30 time to 10, if that's the consensus of the
But I
board.
don't think you can do that.
I won't be able to do that.
He won't be able to make the 10.
I've got to be on site. If I'm not on site, $50,000 fine.
Well, then, in that business instance, is it time for the OUA to help pay for that assistance on site for the time you missed the store?
You got to pay the fine?
Sir?
Well, I'd have to bring another pharmacist in for those hours. I mean, I don't want to put anybody out. I don't want to add any expense to anybody.
Well, we are here to do whatever, so tell me what day and time you want the meeting and we'll set it up.
Let's just leave it like it is until everybody can think about it. I mean, I didn't mean to throw monkey wrench and everything. I just,
Why don't you go
I'm
to Sharon
selfish.
and see if Mondays are available?
Yeah.
And at that point, bring it back next month, and we'll make a decision whether to change the day, and it looks like the time's going to have to stay where it is.
Monday at
Second
10
Monday.
or 8:30.
8:30.
And then I'll check with the availability at 10 those days.
Been longer than me.
Yes, there was an evening that would be
it'd be
good
good
for
for
everybody.
Friday. I'm coming home.
Anything else, John?
Last but not least, the federal team got me an invoice, the normal Monday invoice,
Just for
long
this.
after the board package was approved. This is a standard invoice amount of $3,325 for Thorn Run Partners. You can choose to approve this today, or I'll just tell them it's going to be held a month and we bring it back next month. Typically,
Board's privilege. I mean, not board's privilege, I mean, your
Staff recommendation.
staff recommendation.
I would recommend, we're going to get it anyway, so I would
Yeah.
recommend.
No, I make the motion that we go ahead and pay the bill.
Motion, Mr.
Second.
Nelson to pay, second, Mr. Clay. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else, John?
One quick thing from me.
Items from the board.
Wait a minute, let me ask John a question. It just occurs to me. John, what has occurred with the old water treatment plant out there at Pine Ridge Park? That little bitty piece that,
We had to hear back from that resident to buy it. The option was that the board approved is to offer it for sale for the
Right.
two adjacent property owners. I need to go back and check with them to find out what the status of that is. It's still ours. I need to check with the man who's
I thought
interested.
the one guy wanted to buy that
He does. I
portion.
need to get back with him and find out.
Oh,
what
okay.
we want. But that's still in the works, yes, sir.
That was, I just was sitting here thinking about that. Okay.
Mr. Clay.
Miss Williamson and her folks got back with me last weekend, and they took one picture out of the whole old pictures they had, because they didn't think that we should put something up there too busy to distract drivers. Hadn't thought about that. But they come up with the coolest picture, to me, because it represents Okeechobee. It is cows drinking out of the old lake with no dike. It's so simple that it, you know what I'm saying? But it's the lake, you see the lake just for miles and there's no dike. And the cattle standing there on the edge of it drinking. I mean, they've got it out at the, no, the museum, there you go, I'll get it out. And I just need to get with Maggie Cable and get it brought up. I've seen just a picture of it, but it doesn't do it justice. And again, she called back and she said, we didn't pick 5 or 6 because we just thought that you don't want to get too much up there on that tank,
I agree.
you know. And when she said what she had, and then she sent it to me a couple hours later. But again, I'm going to get with Maggie and I'll get the actual photo brought up.
How do you get a picture on the tank? Do you have to get an artist?
Artists put it on the
Or
tank.
be painted on the
Be
tank?
painted on the tank. Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, then we'll get through that project, get it built, make it ours, and then we would work with them,
Yeah.
the artists, to
Yeah.
get that picture put up. Okay.
Yeah, and again, it is so simple. I mean, it's just that beautiful lake in the background. Because you know, I never got to see it in my lifetime without the dike.
Don't look at me. I didn't.
I was just checking.
Are there any other votes?
Tom, do you remember the locomotive coming into town?
No, between here and Pahokee, yes. There was, between here and Pahokee, but no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Any
they-
further items from the board? Being none, thank you, everybody. This meeting's adjourned. Hey, Tom,